Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be showing off one of the paintings I've been working on recently. It's for a class that I have that's actually an illustration class. It's primarily drawing, but the professors let me paint this one, so whatever. I'm down with it. I love painting. There's a little bit of a backstory to this one. In a previous class in college, the whole class, every single project was you would take a big piece of foam board, like just white foam board, cut out construction paper, basically, like different colors of paper, and have to make pieces of art out of different shapes, and that's it. It was weird. It was kind of a simple concept, but some people made some cool stuff. I was pretty lazy. I didn't make a lot of cool stuff when other people were like really going past the boundaries and making some awesome things. But one of the ones I made, the restrictions were you would have to use a certain amount of circles, triangles, squares, and the professor was like, you can break some rules if you want, if you need to make the piece work. So I also add some paint on top of it to kind of make it come together in the way I wanted. Because when he gave us the prompt, I thought immediately with the amount of shapes there were, I was like, oh, what if I can make a pair of lips with that? So here's the picture I made with just that. So this is the old painting I did from I think 2 years ago now, and yeah, you can see like the shapes in it. It's like 4 triangles, 3 circles, 2 squares where the teeth are, and then just some paint on top of it, and that's all it was. It was just a pair of lips. That's what I saw when I heard the amount of shapes we needed to use, and then I painted it to look like it was bloody, dripping blood. You can see the pool of blood on the bottom a little bit. And I think I was kind of going from like an album cover kind of design. It's not the best though. I don't really like it a whole lot. It's kind of cool concept. Just like, I could see how it would look good if it was done by someone who actually cared enough to make it good. Yeah, there's that. But recently in this illustration class where I decided to paint, for this project the prompt was that we had to make something that could be a t-shirt design. Something you just put like on a graphic for a t-shirt. I started to think about this design, like it just popped back into my head, and I was like, what if I remade that? What if I redesigned it to make it look good? So that's what I'm doing, and I worked on it for 2 class periods now, so not a whole lot of time into it, but this is what I have so far. So I'm making the lips look more realistic. I'm putting the blood all around the border and more drips and stuff, and I think it looks cool. It's still obviously a work in progress, but it's turned out pretty good for only working on it for a little bit so far. The texture in the lips has been pretty fun to do. I enjoyed making the colors for it. I love mixing paints, especially reds and purples and magentas and stuff like that. They're so fun to mix. I just love the colors I get out of them. So that's really fun to do. The technique I'm using for the lips was just I kind of did a base layer. Oh, I'm using oil paints, by the way. I put a base layer pretty thick of just one color. Then I made lighter shades for the top of the lips, darker shades for the bottoms of the lips where you'd see more shadow, and then horizontal blending, and then some vertical blending, and then added that texture that makes it look like, the lines in a lip, that the creases that you'd see. I don't know if you can quite tell in the photos or videos that I have here. The paint for the blood versus the paint for the lips, they are different colors, and the blood dripping off of the lips kind of blended into the same color, just because, I was still working with wet paint, because oil paint takes a long time to dry, or hardened, I guess, because it isn't really dry. So that's kind of turning into the same thing. I don't know if I like that or dislike that, so that's just going to be something I have to manage over the next couple painting sessions. But yeah, I think it's looking really cool. I want to add a lot more definition of the teeth, because they're, still, I barely touched them at all. It's just kind of a shade of gray there. I want to make them more just pure white, where the highlights are going to be towards the bottom of the teeth, where you'd see the light shining through past the shadow above it, because I want it to stand out from the white of the background, which is actually just a light gray. That was something my instructor told me about, was you want to make a white background, don't make it perfectly white, because you want the teeth or the highlights of anything else to stand out more. I'm also going to add more highlights, specular highlights on top of the lips where the highlights are already, just some spots of white to make it, pop, look really glistening. And some highlights on the blood, just a little bit. I want them to stay pretty dark though, because, deep like deep red blood. One other thing that my instructor suggested I do is, so I was initially planning to make the shadows look very blended, very blurry, like a very soft, realistic shadow. Because it's a painting, everything else kind of doesn't look super realistic, and I'm not super talented. I've only had a little bit of experience with oil painting, so I have a lot to go before I can paint really realistically. So having the shadows look super nice and then everything else be painterly that might not work too well. So he suggested I keep some of the brush strokes visible for the shadows and maybe make it a little more visible in the white of the background or the light gray of the background as well, which it kind of does already, but might make it look a little bit cleaner. I like the depth that the shadows give to the picture, because in that old one, it was just flat, like it was two-dimensional, which is something that's kind of hard to avoid when you're only working with construction paper on a piece of white board. This, having more creative freedom and having a new take on it, looking at it for a second time, be like, okay, how can I make this concept better? How can I improve it? This does a lot for it, because if it wasn't there, the lips would be the only three-dimensional thing. Like, maybe the blood has some dimension. I'm going to give it more dimension. I'm going to give some shadows and highlights and stuff like that to the blood. But even with that, it still is just framing the picture. It looks 2D. Having that shadow for the blood and for the lips and for all the drips and stuff makes it feel like it's past just the surface of the canvas, which I think is really cool. One thing I think is funny looking back and forth between the new one and the old one is in the old one, I didn't really get that the blood wouldn't be dripping from the higher part of the lower lip. Like, why would it drip from here? It would go to the lowest point. It should go down here, because that's where gravity goes. That's where it would work. I got that with a new one, like it's all dripping from the lower points of the lips. But in this old one, I really messed that up. I don't know why I did that. And it's kind of not going straight down. It's like going at an angle, and then the subsequent drips are going down. So that's kind of weird. But, I was younger then. I was less knowledgeable, less skilled as I am now. And also the pool of blood at the bottom of the old one is really underwhelming. It's just like, it's barely there. Like, you could miss it. You probably did miss it the first time you saw this if I didn't point it out. Because it's just like a centimeter or two thick. With this new one, it's a lot better, it's prominent. You can tell like the whole frame of it, like the whole room, I guess, is dripping, just like sopping wet with blood. My instructor also gave a suggestion of what if the lips and the blood are the exact same color? Because I initially was thinking, okay, the lips are gonna be more towards magenta, still red, but like a little bit of blue added in there, and the blood is gonna be more of like a pure red or a little bit orangey red, like look like blood. I don't know if I like the idea of them being the same, but I don't really know how I would make them look substantially different when the blood is on the lips, because they're so similar colors. Like, you can tell the difference between them, but when they're together, it's a little bit harder to tell. So I'm not sure. It's going to be something that I have to look into and figure out how I want to do. I was trying to emulate a little bit how liquids drip and like splash into other pools of liquid. Like at the bottom here towards the middle, that drip that's coming down from the lip into like splashing into the bottom of the pool. I try to emulate that thing that happens when you drip a drop of water into another plane of water that kind of like goes down, creates a wave, and then comes back up with a couple drips above it. That's kind of what I'm doing there. So I think that's working out. Might look a little weird at first, but like maybe when I give it the blood more dimension, some highlights and shadows, it'll look a little bit better. I do wish I had some video of me working on this, but I've only been working on it in class. I don't want to just record myself painting in class, especially like setting up a whole like my phone or a camera to film me for the whole time, do like a time lapse. That'd be kind of weird. I don't know if my professor would even like that. It just wasn't really much of an option, so sorry that I don't have that yet. But for other paintings in the future that I do at home, I will record myself more for. I guess that's all I have for right now. I just kind of wanted to show off what I'm doing with this painting, how I've been working on it, what I want to work on in the future of this painting. And Soon I'll post a video of it finished because it's got to get done by Monday. So I'll be updating probably next week, unless I want to make 2 posts this coming week about how it went, how I finished the process, and how it looks now. So thank you for watching. If you want to see more of my videos in the future, subscribe, click that bell, as they say. The big YouTubers do. If you want to check out my other YouTube channel where I do video game stuff, just real casual, playing video games, having fun with it, I'll put a link to it at the end of this video where you can click and go check it out. Not to fully go into the cliche of YouTuber outros, but I would like if you guys left some comments on this video or any of my videos. I like to hear feedback on what people think of my paintings, any suggestions that you might have to make this better, or ideas for paintings you want me to do in the future. Most of my plan for this channel is to paint things from the games I'm playing on my other YouTube channel, other than stuff that I put on here that I'm doing for school or like personal projects. I want to paint things from the games that I'm playing to kind of relate the 2 channels between each other, which I think is going to be fun. Kind of make my artwork a little bit more unique rather than just like painting anything, like whatever. But if you guys have things that you want me to paint, that would be cool. I would like suggestions. So let me know. Anything you want to say in the comments, let me know. Yeah, guess that's all. Thank you for watching. See you next video. Bye.